everybody. So this is our new story that we're going to read today and on Thursday, and then we're going to have a short test on this story. So this story is titled Ranita, and it's a drama or a play. So that means that we are going to have lots of players or characters in this play. Okay. So this play is about how Felipe the Frog treats Ranita, and he doesn't honor his promise, and we're going to find out how he doesn't honor his promise and what his promise is. So before we start reading this story, let's do just a little bit of background knowledge on this story. So the setting of this story is in Mexico a long time ago when it was ruled by Spain. So Mexico and Spain are really far apart, so it took a long time to send messages back and forth by ship. Okay, so let's see what I'm talking about here. So here we have Mexico, that's in green, and then we have Spain, which is in orange. So you can see how it would take a long time to carry messages back and forth by ship, okay? So, let's see if we can make this bigger. So this play will be kind of more difficult doing it virtually because there are so many different characters. It'll be hard for me to act them out. So I'm going to let this, you see these icons here, they are the audio icons. And if you go on yours, you can click on it and it will read for you, and it'll even highlight as it reads. So we're going to try to let the audio button do some of it so that it might not be as confusing. So I'll do the setting and the players, and then we'll move on, okay? So the setting of the story is long ago in Mexico. The Viceroy's hunting lodge in Chipotle Forest, okay? And then we've got lots of players. So we have Felipe, the Viceroy's rotten son. We have Pipi, Felipe's mistreated servant. Ranita, a little frog with a mysterious past. These words are Spanish, some of them are, so they're hard for me to pronounce. Via Sabia, a wise but cranky old woman. Viceroy, the representative of the Spanish throne. Viceroy's wife, a cook. Man 1, man 2, servant 1, servant 2, man 3, and then we have some extras. Members of the hunting party, servants attending dinner, noblemen, and ladies. Okay, so if I were to ask you when and where this play takes place, where does it take place? What country? It's in Mexico, and when does it take place? Long ago. So I got that from the setting up here. Now, if we look at all the players, who do you think are going to be the main characters? So probably the first three, because they are first in the list of players. And then we get down here and we just have a cook, man 1, 2, and 3, servant 1, servant 2. So the first three are probably going to be our main characters. Okay, and the word players is just a synonym for characters. Okay, so let's look at our essential question one more time before moving on. How do animal characters change familiar stories? So now we are on page 112. Okay, and we've got scene 1. Now, remember on Thursday, we talked about what each part of a play is called. What is each part called? A scene. And what scene are we in right now? Right, scene 1. So let's go ahead and listen. Let's see if we can make this bigger because it's just really hard to see. So we've got men up here, we've got a frog, and they look like they are looking for something, maybe. So let's see.
Scene 1. In a forest clearing, men are frantically searching the ground. From a nearby stone well, Ranita watches but remains unnoticed.
So right there, we've got the stage directions, okay? Now, if we were acting this out, we would not read that or say that. We would just do it. So just like they're doing up here, they are searching the ground, and you can see Ranita, the frog, up at the very top sitting on the stone wall.
Man 1. Frustrated. Keep looking. If we don't find that golden arrow. Man 2. We'll be on tortillas and water for the next month.
Why does it keep doing this? Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, guys. I am frustrated right now. Every time that I move my mouse, it keeps moving it some other way. And I hear this noise outside that's very distracting and annoying. So I can use all of our vocabulary words at once. All right, so man 1 is frustrated. Keep looking. If we don't find the golden arrow, then man 2 is about to say something.
Men, grumbling, all agree. Enter Felipe. Felipe, loud and demanding. Well, have you found my golden arrow yet? Man 3. Well, have you found my golden arrow yet? Man 3. Not yet, senor. Felipe, sweetly, hand over heart. It was a gift from my dear mother. Turning suddenly and hissing, find it, or I will feed you to the jaguars, starting with my bumbling servant, Pepe. It's his fault I missed my mark. Now, out of my sight, all of you. Men exit hurriedly.
All right, so the word bumbling here means clumsy or awkward. So his bumbling servant, his clumsy servant, his awkward servant, okay? So what are the men searching for? What is Ranita doing? She's watching the men from the stone wall. So if we were to look at the stage directions, remember the ones in parentheses and the words that are italicized. If we look at the stage directions, what word tells us that Felipe enters? This right here, enter Felipe. Okay, so let's keep looking or reading. I found out what that sound was though. There was a parade with fire trucks and police officers. I guess something to do with Christmas, but here we go.
Felipe, stomping foot and whining. I want... Felipe, stomping foot and whining. I want my golden arrow back. Ranita, sitting on top of well, holding the golden arrow. You mean this golden arrow? Felipe, joyously. My golden arrow. You found it. You. Stops cold. You're a frog. Ranita, you were expecting a Mayan princess, perhaps? Felipe rolls eyes. Well, I wasn't expecting a talking frog. Ranita sighs. I'm under a spell. I don't like to talk about it. Felipe pauses to think. Not my problem. Hand over the arrow. Ranita, plink, drops it back down the well. Looks like it's your problem now. Felipe, no! Threateningly. What have you done, you foolish frog? Ranita, if I am so foolish, how come I am the one with the arrow while you are the one standing there talking to a rana, a frog? Felipe, I would squish you right now. Sniffs. But you are only a frog. Ranita, warningly, You want that golden arrow? Felipe, suspicious. In exchange for what? Ranita, a promise. Felipe, relieved. Oh, is that all? Ranita, a promise is a very serious thing. Felipe, coughing. Yes, of course. Go on.
Okay, so what kind of character do you think that Felipe is so far? He's not very kind, and is he trustworthy? No, he's not. So I'm just trying to pause this. Where Renita's talking, she says, I'm the one with the arrow, while you're the one sitting there talking to a rana, a frog. So a rana is the Spanish word for frog, and I found that out by this comma here, and then it defines the word for me. Okay, so that is actually a context clue hint called an appositive. So when there's a comma separating it, and then it gives the definition, that's an appositive. Okay. So let's see. What do you think that the promise Ranita is going to make Felipe promise to? What do you think the promise is? All right. So who do you think this is talking to Ranita? Do you think that that's Felipe? I'd say it probably is. So let's listen.
Ranita, if I rescue your golden arrow, you must promise to let me eat from your plato, sleep in your cama, and give me a beso when the sun comes up. Felipe just stares. Eat from my plate, sleep in my bed, kiss you. That is disgusting.
So the author uses italics for these Spanish words, and then Felipe repeats it but in English. So Renita wants to eat from Felipe's plate, sleep in his bed, and then get a kiss. All right, let's see.
Ranita, no promise, no golden arrow. Felipe, crossing his fingers behind his back. I promise.
So right then and there, do we know that Felipe is trustworthy? No, because of the stage directions crossing his fingers. So when you cross your fingers and you promise something, that promise doesn't stand. Okay, so we know now that Felipe is not very trustworthy because he crossed his fingers when he promised Ranita.
Ranita fetches the arrow. Felipe bows and runs off. Ranita, espera, wait! I can't hop that fast. Hangs her head and begins to cry. He's gone. Now I'll never break this evil spell.
So we've probably heard a story or listened to a story about a princess or a prince that's a frog that needs to be kissed to be out of this spell. So let's see who even put her in this spell. Let's see if we can find out. So here we've got a picture of a woman holding two walking sticks, and she looks evil based on her smile, doesn't she? And you can see Ranita up here on her shoulder. Ooh, wonder what this is about.
Enter wise woman, leaning on two canes. Vieja sabia. It doesn't feel very good, does it? Ranita blows nose. Please no lectures today, old woman. Vieja sabia. My name is Vieja sabia. Ranita. Sorry, wise old woman. Sadly. You've already turned me into a frog. Isn't that enough? Vieja sabia. You wouldn't be a frog if you hadn't refused to give me a drink from this well so long ago.
So who ended up turning Ranita into a frog? Vieja, right? So why did she do that? Because Ranita refused to give her a drink from the same well that she just threw the golden arrow down in.
Ranita, I was a selfish child then. I have paid for that, haven't I? I have learned what it is like to be alone and forgotten. Vieja sabia. Perhaps you have. Ranita, brightening. Then you will turn me into a girl again? Vieja sabia. No, but I will take you as far as the Viceroy's hunting lodge. You must make the leap from there. Exit Vieja sabia and Ranita.
So if we were to take two characters, Ranita and Felipe, how were those two similar before Ranita got turned into a frog? They were both selfish and they didn't care about anybody but themselves. So why do you think that this is important? Do you think that Ranita is going to turn Felipe into a frog? Let's see. So now we are in scene 2, okay, and we can see all kinds of people. They look angry, and someone's holding a kitchen roller, and they're all chasing after who? Ranita. So let's see what scene 2 has got for us.
Scene 2. Hunting lodge with Viceroy, his wife, noblemen and women, all seated at long banquet table. Servants scurry in and out with bowls of food. Servant 1. Placing bowl of soup before Viceroy. Sopa, senor? Viceroy. Exasperated. See. Where is Felipe? Viceroy's wife, wistfully. Dear boy, he is probably feeding the birds.
So we've got Viceroy's wife, which is Felipe's mom. So how do you think that Felipe's mother feels about her son? Well, she says, dear boy, because she thinks that he is sweet and she thinks that he is kind. His mother says that he must be feeding the birds, which is something that a boy sweet and kind would do. So how is their view, how is her view different from how the server or the servants view Felipe? Let's see if we can figure that part out.
Servant 2. Aside. To the cat. Servant 1. Muffles laugh.
So we've got the two servants here. How do you think that they feel about Felipe? His mom says, dear boy, he's probably just feeding the birds. Servant 2, to the cat. And then the other one laughs. So they joke that he was probably feeding the birds to the cat. They think that he's rotten and would not do anything sweet or kind. So how do you think that Felipe acts towards his mother? Probably well-behaved and kind, because she wouldn't call him dear boy if he wasn't a well-behaved and kind son.
Enter Felipe. Felipe, I am famished.
Hungry.
What a day I have had today. First, I lost my golden arrow.
So famished means hungry.
Shouting from the kitchen can be heard. Felipe, louder. Shouting from the kitchen can be heard.
Wow, that restarted.
Felipe, louder. Then I met this ridiculous, demanding. Enter Ranita, running from the kitchen, chased by cook and servants. Felipe, slack-jawed. Frog. Cook, you hop back here. To servant, stop her right now.
So who ended up showing up at Viceroy's cabin? Ranita. So Felipe's sitting around the table telling his family that he met this ridiculous, demanding frog. Because Ranita was there.
Servant 1 tries to catch frog. Aye, she's a slippery one. Servant 2. Ooh-wee, she bit me. Cook, get her, Pepe. Pepe catches Ranita under the table, smiles, and lets her go. A commotion follows as the cook and servants chase Ranita.
So, what does Felipe say about Ranita that shows how he feels about the promise to her? He says he met a ridiculous, demanding, so he clearly doesn't take the promise that he made to her seriously. So we know that he crossed his fingers when he promised to her, and now we know that he's calling her ridiculous and demanding. Okay? So how do you know how the other characters feel about Felipe? By their dialogue, the words that they are speaking. And you can also tell by the stage directions, because that one servant just laughed whenever servant 2 said, to the cat. The other servant just laughed. So here we've got a picture of Ranita sitting at the table with everybody else, and she looks like she's eating some soup. Let's see what this has to say. So here's the Viceroy, which is Felipe's father.
Viceroy, basta, enough. Who is this creature? Felipe, sneering. She's the nasty little frog who rescued my golden arrow.
So, by the stage directions, I'm sorry guys, I do not know why this keeps scrolling up and down. By the stage directions, and he's sneering, saying, she's the nasty little frog who rescued my golden arrow. Why do you think that he's sneering? He's insulting Ranita. He's calling her nasty. Let's see what Ranita has to say.
Ranita, and in return he promised to let me eat from his plateau, sleep in his cama, and give me a beso when the sun came up. Viceroy, did you make this promise? Felipe, sullen, I don't remember.
So he's lying now. Felipe is saying that he doesn't remember promising Ranita anything.
Viceroy's wife, indignant. Even if he did, he is the Viceroy's son.
So his mother, the Viceroy's wife, is taking up for him.
Viceroy, grave, see, and the Viceroy's son keeps his promises. Pepe, set a place for our guest.
So how are Viceroy and Felipe different? Keeping a promise is very important to Viceroy, whereas for Felipe, he doesn't think that it's a big deal to not keep a promise.
Felipe, but father, Viceroy's wife, Ernesto. Viceroy, slams fist on table. Silencio, silence. Ranita hops on table. Felipe is too stunned to speak. Viceroy's wife is glaring. Viceroy, Everyone, and I mean everyone, eat.
So right then and there, Viceroy's wife, her dialogue or her action, she's just glaring. Is she happy that Ranita, the frog, is eating on the table? No.
Pepe puts bowl down in front of Felipe. Felipe gives a yelp. Pepe! Pepe, innocently. See? Felipe, disgusted. There is a fly in my soup. Pepe, it's for the frog. Viceroy, excellent. Eat up, Felipe. Viceroy's wife, revolted. Arg!
All right. So I want to make sure that I understand the characters in this story. Felipe calls Ranita the nasty frog who rescued my golden arrow. Ranita tells the Viceroy about the promises his son, Felipe, made to her in return for the golden arrow. How does Viceroy respond? He's angry because Felipe thought that this promise meant nothing. So how are they different? Keeping a promise is important to Viceroy and not to his son. So the author puts the Viceroy's words in capital letters to show how he emphasizes them. Felipe lies and says he doesn't remember if he made a promise to Ranita. This shows that Felipe will try to get out of keeping the promise that he doesn't like. Being honorable is important to the Viceroy, but not to his son. So what do you think? Do you think that the Viceroy will talk some sense into Felipe and say, you've got to follow this promise? Or do you think that Felipe's still going to just blow it off like it's nothing? All right, so now we're no longer at the dinner table. We are in scene 3, so part 3 of this story. Let's listen and see what's happening now.
Scene 3. Felipe's bedroom.
So they're in the bedroom now.
Felipe, on bed. I refuse to sleep next to a frog. Pepe. Pepe enters immediately. Si, senor? Felipe, snappish. What took you so long? Hurry, tell my father I can't do this. Desperate. Tell him I'll get warts. Enter Viceroy. Viceroy, annoyed. With any luck, you will get one on your oath-breaking tongue, boy.
So oath-breaking tongue means that he's not following the promise.
Felipe, whining. Father, Viceroy, you made a promise, Felipe, to Pepe. Help him keep his word, eh, Pepe? Exit Viceroy.
So his father is forcing him to stick with his promise that he made Ranita. Okay? So is that just the same that if you kiss a frog, you'll get warts? Let's read the next page, 121.
Felipe throws pillow at Pepe, falls on bed, and begins to wail. Pepe blows out candle and sits in chair. Hasta mañana. Until tomorrow. Sweet dreams, Felipe. Felipe growls. I will dream of roasted frog legs. Ranita, I'm telling. Felipe, bug breath. Ranita, big baby. Pepe sighs. It's going to be a long night.
So the Viceroy, what advice does the Viceroy tell Pepe to do? To help keep his son's word. Okay, so what does Pepe do to make sure that Felipe sticks with his promise? He's spending the night in there with him. All right, let's see what happens now.
Next morning. Ranita, cheerful. Despierta, wake up. It's beso time.
So Renita's ready to
Felipe
kiss.
rubs eyes, sees Ranita, and shrieks. Felipe whimpers, clutching his blanket. It wasn't a bad dream after all. Forget it, Frog. I'm not kissing you. Ranita, stubbornly, you promised. Felipe, well, smiles slowly. I've just had a better idea. Kicks chair to wake his servant. Pepe. Pepe. Groggy. Senor. Felipe, you are sworn to obey me in all things. See? Pepe, confused. See, senor?
So what is Felipe trying to make Pepe do? Felipe just said that you are sworn to obey me in all things. What do you think that he's going to ask Pepe to do? Kiss Ranita? We'll see.
Felipe, smug. Kiss the frog. Pepe shrugs and kisses Ranita's cheek. No longer a frog, Ranita is now a beautiful Mayan princess. Felipe, dazzled. But who? Bowing. Allow me to introduce myself. I am.
So Pepe kissed the frog and she turned into this beautiful princess. And now who's regretting it? Let's see.
Ranita, the Spanish viceroy's rotten son, and I am the Mayan emperor's lucky daughter. Felipe and Pepe fall on their knees. Ranita, I have been enchanted for 200 years. Felipe looks up. You've been a frog for 200 years? What's so lucky about that? Ranita, I'll tell you. As a princess, I could have ended up the wife of a spoiled brat like you. Instead, I found myself a prince. Takes Pepe's hand. A prince of a husband, that is. Pepe kisses the princess's hand, while Felipe has a screaming tantrum.
So now Pepe and the princess are going to get married. And Felipe is sitting there in disbelief. He's like, I cannot believe this. He should have just kissed the frog. He should have kept his promise. So now we have the epilogue, which means that the epilogue happens way later, okay? So this is the same clearing as in the forest as in scene 1. So we're back to the same place that scene 1 was in.
Epilogue. The same clearing in the forest as in scene 1. Felipe kicks a stone. If they think I'm going to their ridiculous wedding, ha! May they have a dozen ugly tadpole children. Enter Vieja Sabia. Vieja Sabia. Agua. Water from the well, my son, before I die of thirst. Felipe, snarling. I'm no water boy. I'm the viceroy's son. Get your own water, you old cucaracha.
What is going to happen to Felipe? The same person that turned Ranita into a frog. Do you think that she is going to turn Felipe into a frog? Let's see.
Vieja Sabia, with gentle concern. Cockroach. It's very rude to speak to your elders that way. Has no one taught you manners? Felipe, puzzled. No. Vieja Sabia, smiling wickedly.
What's she about to do?
Well, pointing finger at Felipe. That is my specialty. Poof! Felipe the frog hops onto the top of the well. Vieja sabia to audience. And now you know how the frog prince ended up in that well.
Oh my goodness. So now Felipe is a frog. So he did not learn any lesson whatsoever, did he? Could we have learned a lesson from this? So this was a fairy tale, and we know that there are lessons that we do learn from the author. So the overall message that the author wanted to give us, the overall theme or the lesson is that it is very good to be kind and help others, okay? So Renita learned that the spell and the importance of being kind and helping other people. When Felipe refuses to get water for her and calls her a cockroach, she punishes his rudeness by turning him into a frog. So she seems to be the character who punishes the other characters in order to teach the message. So she's got a specialty in teaching people a big message, okay? So we're going to reread this story on Thursday, and I might reread it to you guys because it's kind of confusing when there's not different characters to read it and it's just one voice. But we are going to reread this on Thursday and then take a test with it, and you can use your book for that test, okay? So have a good Monday.